This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot Michiganrob. I am, of course, your host, BMR, and joining me in Studio B from Texas, the great state of Texas, I might add, the great Tex Wesson. We have a great show for you tonight. Daniel Becker, we're talking some Alaskan Bigfoot here in just a few minutes. So thanks to each and every single one of you for coming on. Of course, if you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michiganrob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast found on YouTube. Truth or Tinfoil on YouTube with Brandy and Randy. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. And Paranormal Paul. That's right. That's our lineup. We're on 7 days a week. Turn on your alert bells so you don't catch a single show. We're on almost 7 days a week. Thank you for that. Of course, hit the like button and all that good stuff. Analytics helps promote all the shows. Leave a comment afterwards. You can find us wherever podcasts are found, including iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts. Again, just to name a few. The Super Chat's open is a great way to help support what we all do around here. Thank you in advance for that. You could also become a BMR pirate. Mateys, join today. Join the many. Join the few. Depends on your point of view. And of course, all my other lovely hosts, co-hosts, and YouTubers, most of them have their memberships as well. You can become paranormal porch pirates if you do the trifecta across the board. So thank you in advance for that. I also want to thank everybody for buying my books. Bigfoot Michiganrob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. Book 2 as well. Book 1 dropped. It's about a year and 4 months old now, and Book 2 dropped beginning of September. Thanks to everybody who's bought that. Simply type Bigfoot Michiganrob in your Amazon browser, and if you do buy the book, please leave a review. Much like YouTube, the analytics is very important to help promote sales, so on and so forth. Thank you for that. I'm going to bring up Tex, and we have a conference going on, and I'm going to bring up Mr. Tex so we can talk about that just a little bit here. Hey, Tex, what's happening, man?
I was just sitting here looking at the bracket playoffs, and it's a possibility that it could be a Detroit and Texas Super Bowl.
It could. You got the Houston Texans, who we destroyed earlier in the year.
Yeah.
However, I wouldn't mind.
That doesn't bode well, though. See, that doesn't bode well.
Teams get a bad taste in their mouth when you lose by 40 points.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I really want to see Detroit, Kansas City Chief matchup. I really do.
Do you?
I think we match up well against them. I'm scared of Lamar Jackson. He's just phenomenal. Detroit defense against running quarterbacks, much like this weekend, Washington's quarterback's pretty good. Detroit, with our banged up defense, I think Lamar's a stud, but I like to see Detroit KC. I really would. Now, if Houston plays us, that would be fantastic as well. We see if the Texans go to the Super Bowl, and if Detroit even goes to the Super Bowl, it would be the matchup of Texas and Michigan. And the Blondes and the Booze, if Kansas City goes, then they'll be representing, the Booze and BMR, Michigan and Missouri. So we have two.
She'd like to see the whole Kansas City and Detroit matchup. So
yeah, I think that'd be the best. And Kansas City's going for 3 straight Super Bowls, so that would be one hell of a a score. If that happened,
Get
yeah,
the hat trick. Yeah.
it'd be the hat trick. And like I mentioned, everybody, we do have the conference coming up
We
here.
do. We do.
Check it out. Crossing Realms. The Crossing Realms Conference. This is a combination of, you get UFOs, paranormal, and cryptids. That's September 19th and 20th at the Eagleton Civic Center, Richmond, Missouri. Of course, the link is in this video. The links are on all of our YouTube channels. So get your tickets on Eventbrite. And we have a great lineup. It's always expanding. Brian Bowden hasn't made it yet. Jason's got to yet again work on another picture, but we got Brian Bowden. We also have Miguel from Sasquatch Theory coming on, but the other guests already that made the picture here: Josh Hurd, paranormal investigator, author, lecturer, Professor Heather Mosier, small town monsters producers, Frankie and Dan from the Haunted Garage. They'll be bringing a haunted car, and of course, Mr. Tex is the our special guest, or not our special guest, our master of ceremonies. The speakers, Greg Ogles, William Lunsford, Dr. Dean Bertram, Ronald Murphy, and Lady Ann Celine. Special guests, Dana Stricker, Ken Gerhardt, Brent Thomas. And I got to write down the other ones. I know there's a couple other pretty well folks coming on in.
Well, we got this.
There's that. Yeah, I can't read it. It's hosted by.
Here, I got it. You
can read that off.
Thanks. Featuring Josh Hurd, Professor Heather Mosier, William Lunsford, Lady Ann Celine, Ron Murphy, Dr. Dean Bertram, Greg Ogles, Frank Cabaletta, and Dan Klein. And Sir Bryden Bowden and Miguel Ramirez. Special guests that will be there that you can rub elbows with is Ken Gerhardt, Dana Stricker, Brent Thomas, Ryan Edwards, Mike Familiant, Chris Garitano, Linda Eastburn, David Glidden. We, of course, all the Island of the Misfit Toys will be there. Myself, Brandy and Krista, Monica, Paul, Danielle Diva, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, our tech troll, Randy Gilbert, Donnie Cho, Jason McLean, and I believe Pops is going to make an appearance if it's all possible. So you'll have to, you'll have his brain to pick also. We are sponsored in part by Doug Highcheck with, of course, he's the monster, what is that? Man, I was on a roll. Monster Quest producer, and he's got this. Why do you want to put the ticker in front of me when I'm trying to read this?
Oh, man. Hey, there you go. I didn't know you couldn't see it, my man. Go ahead.
Hangar One Publishing, Curious Realms is going to be doing our video and our tech, and Marilyn Bass with Para with a Normal, and she will also be doing, if we're going to talk about what's going on that weekend, we've got Friday night, we've got the meet and greet, and while you're eating dinner, you get to listen to Miguel Ramirez talk, and he's from Sasquatch Theory or Bigfoot, Sasquatch Theory. And then after we eat and greet each other, Chris Garitano is going to show his newest film, and popcorn and sodas will be there for your consumption. Now, Saturday, of course, we have the vendors area, and all the special guests and all the speakers will have tables, along with whoever buys a vendor spot. That is open to the public for free, so you get to rub elbows with them. And
I didn't understand that.
That's not my problem. Sorry, she interrupted me. Then we have the speakers, and then we also have a gallery reading by Mary Lynn Bast. Don't forget that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've never been to one. I'm looking forward to it. And then of course, Saturday night we have the Celebrity Ghost Hunt, which all those tickets are sold out, folks. I am sorry, but that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say. So that is the Crossing Realms Conference. UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptids, the Eagleton Civic Center, 1015 West Royal Street, Richmond, Missouri, September 19th and 20th, 2025.
Excellent, Tex, if you want to take that down. Awesome job. I just had a sent a different link to Daniel. He'll be joining us shortly.
All right.
I must have sent him he said he was backstage, but it must have been to a different show that I might have
Must
screwed
have
up.
been because he wasn't in here.
Yeah. So he
What
should
link
be
did you
here.
send him, bro?
Well, I have 3 shows scheduled and I might have hit a different one. I might have hit him like, Saturday show or something like that. He still should have pulled up though. But anyway, I sent him this link to this one, so he'll probably be joining us shortly. He will be joining us shortly. I know that. So yeah, Tex, I tell you what, of all the years I do not have my snowblower, I haven't had snow in 3 years where you needed a snowblower. I must have shoveled 4 times already this year, man. And I'm not happy with it.
Well,
It's a
if you
back break.
hadn't got rid of your snow, it's your fault, because if you hadn't got rid of your snowblower, you wouldn't have had this. You know that, right?
I do know it.
You
But
jinxed
3
yourself
But
and
3 years.
everybody else.
Yeah, but it was 3 years. I shovel maybe once a year the last 3 years. And of course, I jinxed myself. I probably jinxed the state of Michigan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what happened.
And
all your fault, Rob.
It's all my fault. I know. So, that's why I'm not wearing my traditional pirate bandana. I'm wearing my Detroit. I don't know what you call this, beanie, I guess. But in celebration of Detroit in our quest for the Super Bowl, it's fitting.
I see a Daniel.
I see a Daniel coming on in. So thanks to everybody for coming on in. Tim, Diane, Selena Garrett, hi, good to see you. If you're new, please subscribe, everybody. My blog, Sunny, Big Bird, hi, Big Bird. Diane Boss is here. Freaky Geek, Lil Patty, hi, Lil Patty. Hey, Lil Patty, I was just talking to Randy. He's working on that prize you won from good old for the 5,000 sub show. So Randy will he's working on it. It's gonna be pretty cool, Little Patty. I think you're gonna like that. Scott, there's like 2 Scotts in here, Scott and Scott M. How you doing? Mary with the Paranormal, how you doing? I'm a new subscriber. Go check out Mary with the Paranormal. Thanks for popping in. Werewolf, a whole bunch of you guys. If I obese tuna, blah blah blah, Kimber, how you doing? If I missed you, I apologize. The chat's starting to fill up a little bit here. And so yeah, we'll get on with the show. We got a great guest, researcher from Alaska, friend of mine. In fact, I'm gonna make sure he's ready. You're all good to go. Give me the thumbs up, Daniel. Thumbs up. Daniel Becker, Cryptid Wilderness Research. You can find him on YouTube. And I put Daniel's YouTube link in this show for you guys to check on out. Welcome back, Dan.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing
Hey,
fantastic. Fantastic.
Great to be with
I
you.
thought you were wearing a climbing helmet when I first saw you. And I'm like, man, he is low. He's ready to go. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps the glare off of my bald head. But
Hey.
Rob, look what I got, Rob,
I'm ready,
here.
brother.
Look what I got here.
There you
Oh,
go.
no.
Hey. I know that you're a Michigan Panther fan as well, but thank you. And guess what I'm wearing? You're going to recognize this, Dan.
Oh yeah,
Warlock.
that's
Mr.
awesome.
Yeah, Daniel sent me this and another cool one that I turned in, which I converted, I must say, Dan. Great t-shirt. Thanks for sending it to me. I got the other one you sent me. Asked me about Portlock. I turned it into a summer shirt. I took off the neck and the sleeves, so I made a muscle shirt out of it. Not that I have big muscles, but I typically wear those in the summer. So thanks for that, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to get you to a Michigan Panthers game this season, by the way.
That's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me.
Tex, how you doing?
Good, man. Good
to see you. It's been a while.
Man, I want to get up there with you and roam around. I want to go poke the bears, so to speak. Not the actual bears, but I want to go poke these critters up there where you're at.
You guys are welcome anytime. Anytime. Right now up here in Alaska, where it's not so much the snow around this area that's been the problem. It's been the ice that's been the
Uh-huh.
problem. And I've gotten out with Chuck Johnson from the channel Chuck's Outdoor Adventures. Gotten out with him recently and done a few things. Going to continue to work with him, and also recently met with some other Alaska researchers. Rob Roy Menzies out of Palmer, Alaska, runs the Bigfoot Art Gallery out there, and also Beans Baxter from Homer, Alaska, who has a podcast called Alasquatch. So, been trying to stay active, although the weather up here is not conducive to doing a lot.
Right.
At
Well,
this
as the
time of
song
year.
says, the weather outside is frightful. But
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I got a question. I just want to get this out there because I've been dying to ask somebody that would know. Because I have a pet peeve. But I only have it if it's okay. So I'll just ask a question. So Portlock, right? This big mysterious, evacuation all at once, right? But nobody wants to go up there and spend the night, from what I understand. Is it legitimate that active and are they that waspy up there?
Well, it all depends on who you talk to. One of the Alaska researchers that I just met with, Beans Baxter, he has been out there and spent a couple nights there. And I believe he has a documentary on YouTube about it. But one of the things about Portlock is that it's hard to get to.
Gotcha.
You got to go down to Homer. You got to find somebody willing to take you out there because you got to get there by boat, and it takes a while, and it's very expensive. And I think more researchers would go out there to access it if they could, but it's just so hard to get there and to make arrangements to find somebody. So that's the big challenge in getting out to Portlock.
Which means if something happens, your goose is pretty much cooked.
Yeah, and the weather can change so quickly here that you can be out there and it'd be nice and sunny, and the next thing you're stranded there for 5 days due to weather.
Right. Which is probably, it's not the most hospitable area to be when you're stranded for weather, I would imagine.
It's not, I know what they say in Michigan, the weather changes every 5 minutes, and probably down there where you are as well. And up here in Alaska, there are two things that can kill you very quickly. One is weather, and the other is wildlife. And those, as a researcher, you're facing those challenges constantly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because everything up there wants to eat you with any size.
Yes. As a matter of fact, when Chuck Johnson and I got out recently, we went into an area just outside of the Anchorage municipality, really close to it. But when you talk about Anchorage, it's hard for people to imagine. You can literally go 5 minutes outside of the border of Anchorage and be able to go 1,000 miles without running into any person or any structure. But Chuck and I went into an area not long ago that I would not dare go into in the summertime, just because the bear activity is so heavy there. It's you go in there in the summertime, you're rolling the dice, and every summer somebody goes in there with their ear pods on, going down the trail and not aware of their surroundings and not paying attention, and they end up getting mauled or charged. So, but Chuck and I went in there in the wintertime, obviously, which I feel good about, but I wouldn't dare go in there in the summer.
That brings up a good point, Tex and Daniel, because we've had a multitude of guest researchers on our shows across the board over the last couple of years, and I never really ask anybody, when you're out doing your research, I guess we all kind of take for granted wildlife. Yeah, you gotta look out for bears, like here in the lower 48, Michigan. There's some black bear here and there. You might get, there's wolves in upper Michigan. But people, they don't really it's like, okay, whatever it is, what it is, it's part of Mother Nature. We all get that. But you, as a researcher in Alaska, you got to not only worry about getting lost. You know, we can talk about the missing folks. I think Alaska's #1 state for missing folks. But when you're looking for Bigfoot, you got to have your head on a swivel, not only for what you're researching, but for the predators not related to Bigfoot, right? So does that like kind of, are you like worried about that at all when you're out there?
Absolutely, I'm worried about it. I had a bad bear encounter a few years ago, and it is a situation I hope to never find myself in again.
Mm.
One of actually my podcast co-hosts and I were out hiking on a trail not far outside of Anchorage, is near an area called Portage Glacier, and this trail was well hiked and a lot of people out there, a lot of families go out there. It goes out to a secondary glacier, and what happened in our bear experience is on the way out there. I saw on the trail that somebody had dropped some food, some candy actually. And
Oh boy.
when I saw the candy on the ground, I immediately knew that the bears would be close, because you know how the bears are. They can smell food, 5 miles away or whatever. But I knew as soon as I saw that candy on the trail that the bears were going to be close. So, anytime that I go hiking in Alaska or out doing research, I'm always armed. You just have to be, because those bears can just come out of nowhere. They're and moose also. Moose are
Right.
another issue. You'd think, oh, these things are so giant, you could see them a mile away, but believe it or not, they blend into the surroundings so well. You could literally just walk around the corner and they're right there. And so what happened in our bear encounter was, we made it out to that secondary glacier just fine. And the on the way back, we heard some brush moving to our left, and I looked over there and I saw like brush moving back and forth like this. And so we stopped and we just watched for a few minutes and we didn't see anything. And we waited about, what seemed like an eternity, what was probably only about 30 seconds in reality. And we saw some birds flying around back there and we thought, oh, it must have been the birds. So we turned it back onto the trail and we were just getting ready to start moving. And I haven't had very many supernatural encounters in my life, but all I can describe it is as like an audible voice said, turn around. And when I turned around, about 15 feet away from me was this, what I estimate to be about a maybe 250-pound black bear. And it was at a dead stare with us. And we ended up in a stalemate. I took the barrel of my firearm and leaned over and had it right in its face, basically. And I had made the decision, if this bear moves forward at all, that it's going to bear heaven.
Right.
And we were just in a stalemate, and we were doing everything they tell you to do, yell, scream, try to get it to move, and it wasn't moving and we weren't moving. And finally, which looking back on it now probably wasn't a good thing to do, but finally we decided, well, somebody's got to move here, and we just started backing up. And unfortunately there was a curve there, which again, in hindsight, this probably wasn't the right thing to do. We went backed around that curve, which took the bear out of our line of sight, which was a big mistake, and one I would never repeat, as that bear could have charged through there and grabbed one of us. We managed we literally backed up all the way back to the trailhead with our guns out and pointed forward. And one of the things that they tell you about, a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between a brown bear and a black bear as far as attacks goes?
Right.
And if a brown bear attacks you, if you play dead, you might survive. You might. But if a black bear attacks you, that black bear wants to eat you.
Really?
So you're going to have to fight for your life. So,
I heard that really quickly. The brown bear, I always thought that the brown bear was bigger and badder, and the black bear, I thought that was the opposite. So really, no, it's the black bear will eat you versus the brown bear that might leave you alone then?
from what I've been told by lifelong Alaskans,
Yes.
is that if with the brown bear, with the grizzly bear, if you play dead,
Okay.
you're not coming out of there unscathed, but you might survive.
Okay.
But a black bear will actually stalk you,
Oh, wow.
and if it attacks you, it's going to cash you in. You know, it's going to want to eat you. In fact, several years ago, there's a place outside of Anchorage called McHugh Creek, and that area is known for black bear activity. And there were some hikers up there that were getting stalked by various black bears, where they just stopped, and the Anchorage police actually had to drive out there and go up the trail and escort them out because of the bear activity was so bad at that particular time. But yeah, anytime you're out doing Bigfoot research here in Alaska, you've got to be bear aware, and they can come at you so quickly that you don't even know what's going on. So, one of the things that I do when I'm out there is, and this during the bear encounter that I had, I didn't have this active, but what I usually do is I bring one of those old time radios, one of those boxes, and I blast music as I'm going down the trail. So, they're hearing classic rock and 80s music, basically.
Yeah.
So I keep it loud because I do not want another bear encounter. That's for sure.
I'm glad you gave me that little tidbit of information, because we have predominantly black bear where I live. Well, not even where I live, about 3 hours north of me. And I always thought it was the opposite. So I'm glad that I got some good information from an Alaskan researcher, because I just thought the black bear might be, take it or leave it.
Well, from what I understand, and we're starting to see some black bear in my research area, in southern Oklahoma, and from what I understand, it's like he was saying, brown bear, you play dead. When the encounter first happens, you play dead, you might survive it. A black bear, you get as big and scary as you can to try to run it off. But if the encounter goes past that, yeah, they want you for lunch. Now, my question is, and I had an encounter not too well, I guess it's about a year ago now, where I heard something walking through camp. Okay, and I thought it was one of the guys that got up to go take a leak, right? We were camped on pea gravel, and so it sounded like it was on two legs, okay? And I'm thinking, my first thought was, and it would come over beside my tent. I'm thinking, why you got to come over by my tent and take a leak, right? So, in my cot, I had my cot in my tent, and I'm right against the back wall of my tent. And then it stopped right outside, right by me. And then right next to my ear, I get, and I'm going through my head what this could be, right? So, and I'm thinking bear, deer, because a lot of things will huff at you, right? I'm actually kind of hoping it's a Bigfoot. That's the least of my worries at that point. Of course, we got major pig problems down here. Okay. But my question is, is it the brown bears or the black bears that are more likely to reach in and pull you out of your tent while you're sleeping?
That's probably a matter of opinion, but I'd say it's the brown bears.
Okay. But yeah, I was the only thing that, I know a lot of times when bears get excited or agitated or whatever, they'll mash their teeth, click their teeth, their jaws or whatever. I didn't get any of that. But of course, I'm going through everything that I could think of, what it might be. And then my next thought was, damn, my pistol's in my truck. and which is not good, folks. But like any good researcher, I rolled over, hit the recorder on my phone, and went back to sleep. Right. So, but what was cool is about the next hour and a half, you could hear wood knocks, mouth pops, whatever they do around camp, all around, So I'm kind of leaning towards it was probably a Bigfoot, I hope. But my to tell that story, my question was, what's going to pull you out of your tent quicker, a brown bear or black bear? So, and we don't have brown bears down here, so I appreciate that. Appreciate the answer.
You mentioned the hogs down there. When I go down and do research with my partners, as you guys know, William Lunsford, Stephen Hill. Last year, I got chased up a tree by wild hogs because I had William had the firearm, and I'd kind of gotten a little ways away from him, and I will never forget that experience.
Yeah, because they will eat you just as quick as a bear will. And there will be absolutely nothing left of you.
And also, you're contending with the snakes down there as well.
Yeah. Well, we got one or two of them out there. Yeah. Of course, the mosquitoes are as big as freaking crows, and they'll just carry you out.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
No, you go ahead, Dan. I'll follow up.
That's another thing that Alaska has that people don't think about is mosquitoes. Some people come up here and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize the mosquitoes would be so bad up here," and the mosquitoes are horrible in the summertime. And in addition to that, we've got the biting gnats, which are the no-see-ums, they call them, and I think they have those in Michigan as well. Farther up north, as we say.
Yes, as we say.
Yeah. So the mosquitoes are a huge issue up here in the summer. In fact, when I've been out in the summertime here, the mosquitoes have been so bad that I literally wear a mosquito net over my head. It looks kind of funny, but it's effective.
Yeah,
I have seen that in several videos with researchers in Alaska wearing the mosquito nets during a certain time of the year. And I could talk about Alaska. We could all talk about just the state of Alaska all day long. But I got to ask you, since we're talking a little bit about your research in that, how did you first get involved with this, and what prompted your move to Alaska? Because were you grew up in Michigan, if I understand correct?
I am originally from Newark, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
And went to high school there in the Detroit area.
I got to say briefly on this show, we don't recognize Ohio.
I was thinking you might say that.
I'm kidding. You're okay, Daniel.
I still haven't gotten over that game.
Subscribers live in Ohio. I love you. Go Blue. But anyway, I'm sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
I still haven't gotten over that loss, by the way.
I know you haven't. Man. I'm sorry.
So, I went to high school there in the Detroit area and attended Henry Ford Community College in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
And also, and then after that, I went back to Ohio, back up to Michigan, went to Boston, and I was attending school in Boston. And how I ended up in Alaska was I had come up here in the summertime to work for 2 summers, so it wasn't totally new to me. And I had a friend in Boston who was a doctor that was taking a practice up here, and I just came along to help with the move, and with no intention on staying, and ended up staying, and that's pretty much how it happened.
Oh wow! And so what did get you started then in what you do today? And by the way, everybody, Daniel Becker's he's got a cool YouTube channel. I was on it several months ago, I think, or a month ago, and that's great. Go check him out. The link is provided for y'all in this video, in this live show. Go check him out after the show. And Dan, you are a great researcher. You mentioned 2 awesome researchers, William Lunsford and Stephen Hill, who've been on the show as well with me and text several times. But what were you drawn to about getting involved with this? It's not the average everyday person that wakes up and says, I'm going to become a cryptid researcher. I certainly didn't think I would even be doing a talk show if I didn't find and discover a Bigfoot on accident. So how did this all start for you, man?
So, like so many other researchers, my journey started with In Search Of. As a kid, it seems like 99% of the researchers that you talk to that are at least in our age area
Yeah.
say, "Oh, In Search Of had some type of influence on why they're a cryptid researcher today." And for me, that's where it started. And after I saw In Search Of and saw the Patterson Gimlin film, I was just entranced by that. And so I thought, well, when I go to school this week, I'm going to look in the library, because I thought, oh, they got to have something in the library about Bigfoot. And I wasn't able to find anything. So I'm going to go to the next best thing. I'm going to ask Grandma. Grandma's always got good stories. And my grandmother had grown up way back in the hollers of Kentucky, and just across the Ohio River into Kentucky. And I'd actually been back there as a kid. So I had seen firsthand how remote it was. And so I went over to my grandma's house and I asked her if she had ever heard any Bigfoot stories about where she grew up. And she told me this story about a Bigfoot that lived in the woods back where she lived, and that it would come in and take vegetables out of a garden. And when she told me that story, I was hooked. And of course, having seen that area and gone back on those dirt roads, I had a visual of what that must have been like. So that's really what got me hooked on it. And so after that, when I would be outdoors and hiking and in Ohio and being in the woods and then later up in Michigan, I never really said anything, because back then, this is before all the big TV shows and all the podcasts that you have out there today, obviously, and it was still kind of invoked a lot of laughter when you mentioned it. So I kind of kept it on the down low. So, but when I was out there in the woods, everybody else is looking at the trees and looking at the lakes and looking at the scenery, and I was looking for tracks. I was keeping my eye out, and I'm like, I'm going to find I'm going to find me a track somewhere, and I was actually in Licking County, Ohio. I was out at a Boy Scout camp that was there. And when we were out in the woods, that's what I was focused on, trying to find a track. And I thought I'd seen one or two, but I wasn't really sure because, I didn't really have anything to go on, other than what the little bit I'd seen on TV. But so from then on, anytime I was in the woods, I would try to take advantage of that time to look for the tracks. Now, I wasn't really familiar with the vocalization part of it and the tree knocks. It wasn't until much later when more documentaries and the TV shows started coming out, and then I started opening up to that. And when I came to Alaska, one of the first things I did up here was I went to the University of Alaska Anchorage, and I took a hiking and backpacking class. And part of this course involved several trips, and one was a 4-day long one that took place out on the Kenai Peninsula. And where my Alaska research started coming into play was really during that class from the university, because I finally had the opportunity to get way, way, way out in the bush and start looking around. And it was actually during that course on that 4-day trip down on the Kenai Peninsula outside of Seward, Alaska, was where I believe I heard my first tree knocks in the state. And it wasn't really recognizable to the people I was with, because they weren't into that kind of thing. And I was kind of, again, still kind of keeping it on the down low. And but I was attuned to my environment a lot more because of the Bigfoot interest. and we were probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 miles into the backcountry, and when nighttime got there, of course, nighttime here in the summertime, it doesn't really get fully dark,
Right.
where we are. And, but I heard in the distance, several distinct, tree knocks. And, that was really my first introduction to activity in Alaska. And actually, I've never really talked about that moment, before. I think this is the first time, at least on a
Oh, wow.
podcast or and such.
Exclusive. BMR lands the exclusive.
Yeah, it was that hiking and backpacking class, that I had my first opportunity to really, to zero in on possible cryptid activity in Alaska. And from there, I went to Cordova, Alaska, which is about a 30-minute flight from Anchorage. And that's where I really experienced that first. You talk to so many different researchers, and almost all of them say they have those moments of feeling like they're being watched. And I was out at a very distant campground, and Cordova is a place that you can only get to by boat and airplane. It's not on the road system. Nice town. It's kind of the gateway to Copper River salmon. A lot of salmon fishermen go down there. And I was at a very distant campground, one that was off the beaten path that tourists, if they went there, or sports fishermen, if they went there, would not know about. And I was out there completely by myself. And I had not seen any bear tracks around. I know bears are always around, obviously, here, but I had not seen any bear tracks. So I wasn't really worried about that. It wasn't near any streams or anything. But for the first time, I experienced that silence that so many researchers have mentioned, and that feeling of being watched.
Yeah.
And again, that in my research career, that is one of those stickler moments that I'll never forget. It was just that feeling. A lot of people say, well, there was probably a bear in the bushes. No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. It was something different. And as you guys know, if you've been out in the field enough, you start to recognize it. That charged feeling, that silence that seems to surround these cryptids when they're in the area. So yeah, and things just went on from there, and got hooked up with William Lunsford and Stephen Hill, who are really my mentors.
Right.
And in addition to my partners, and I go down there a lot and do research with them. But yeah, Alaska's been an interesting time. There was another time between right outside of Talkeetna, which is kind of on the direction driving to Fairbanks, where I pulled off to the side of the road. And this is years ago, and I didn't think anything of it until later on, when I started hearing more reports about the rock throwing. I had pulled off at night because I was just tired, and I pulled off, and it wasn't a rest stop or anything like that. I literally just pulled off the side of the road where I saw room, and all of a sudden, I was there about 15 minutes or so, and I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, this little tiny pebble hit the hood of the vehicle, and I was just like, what is going on here? At the time, I wasn't thinking that it could be a Sasquatch or a cryptid that was doing it, but it was just a small pebble, and it hit the hood of the car, and it just stayed there. It wasn't thrown hard enough to hit it and bounce off. It just literally stayed there. I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere off the side of the road. And now I'm looking, I just saw a pebble clonk on the hood of the car, and there it is, still sitting there, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I just, in my mind, I couldn't process what in the world could have done this. And it wasn't until later I thought, oh my gosh, when I started hearing more stories about the rock throwing, then I started putting two and two together. But sorry to be so long-winded. I apologize.
No, take yourself. No, it's awesome. Like I always tell Tex and everybody, and to guess, 70% of the show should be you speaking, telling us about your great experiences and encounters and how you got where you are today. But you brought up a cool point that I've come across quite often. Tex, I'm sure he has. Daniel, I'm sure you have as well. oftentimes when we talk about that feeling of dread or being watched, I oftentimes even get it from people that aren't even have no clue about, they're not even looking for Bigfoot. They're not looking for cryptids. What they're doing, they're hunters, or maybe it's a family that goes camping or backpacking. And oftentimes when they say or give me a story or talk about their first encounter with a cryptid or a Bigfoot, they are aware of their surroundings, if there's bears around or other animals, but oftentimes we get that innate feeling that there's something different going on. You get that feeling that you've never experienced ever in the woods. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that these big feet, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they emulate that, they project that when they're in the area? Because a lot of people, again, aren't even aware of Bigfoot, and they get that when they have an encounter. Does that make sense to you? Have you heard that before?
Yes, I have, and it's it's there's a lot of theories, obviously, on what could possibly be causing this. Uh, a lot of it goes into the paranormal side of the house.
Okay.
That they have a certain aura about them, if you would, an aura. Other people have told me that it's just because their sheer size of coming into an area, they kind of dominate it so much that you can just feel their presence, but
Often people, not to interrupt, often people suggest the energy that they put off. Very
yes. Yeah, that's a better way to put it, as you say it. Yeah, for me, I think it's kind of that energy that they bring with them. I knew that what I was experiencing in Cordova was different than bears. I mean, I was armed, as I always am, but it was just different, and the environment seemed to react to it. It became silent. It was like all the noise had disappeared. And I've heard that from other researchers as well, as I'm sure you guys have as well.
Tex, you thinking of a question? You're on mute, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, I had some stuff going on next to me, so
I
I wanted to ask you, 'cause, I mean, you were talking about the whole sense of dread, being watched, that type of thing. A lot of people associate with the sense of dread with Dogman, right? What, as far as that cryptid, what are y'all running into, if anything, up there? I mean, in the Great White North up there. So I don't know if Dogman makes it up that far, or what do you think? Y'all have Otterman and stuff, right?
Now, me personally, I have not spoken to anybody up here who have had any Dogman experiences. Now, with William Lunsford and Stephen Hill in our research area down in Arkansas and that neck of the woods, whole different story. Whole different story.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, we're actually seeing in that research area, we're actually seeing more Dogman activity. And in fact, it's probably at its highest that it's been.
Really?
But up here in Alaska, I have not talked to anybody who have had any Dogman experiences myself.
Tex alluded to the Otter Man, and then and then Duke, of course, Kustaka. You ever hear the crying babies, especially in Alaska? Now, I know you mentioned the Kenai Peninsula, and I've had a guy on that does research out there in this cabin, that when women were at the cabin, just when women were there from the forest, and of course they also were off the peninsula, so you got the ocean, the bay in front of them, and when they only had their wives or girlfriends with them, they could hear crying babies in the forest. And legend has it with the Kustaka that it would lead people to the ocean or to the bay, and they would come up and grab you and drown you. tricking you into thinking that you're out rescuing a baby. First of all, how would a baby be left alone in Alaska? I don't buy that. I mean, no one's going to leave their kid there. But if you hear Daniel, text any of us, you hear a baby crying, you're going to go towards the sound of the baby. Not knowing, haphazardly perhaps, but you're going to go because that's our impulse as human beings, right? If you heard stories about that, you think that's allegedly a legend, or if folks in Alaska talk to you about that at all?
One Alaska Native gentleman from the southeastern part of the state told me once that Sasquatch, if they want to do something bad to you, will lure you in. And he mentioned that one of the ways they do it is by mimicking the sounds of a crying woman. He actually said a crying woman. He didn't say baby, but same concept. And that gentleman that I spoke to is the only one who's actually shared that type of story with me. But that has been mentioned to me.
Yeah, I always hear that. It's typically always Alaska. It's typically, for me personally, the Kenai Peninsula and such. You know, when you throughout your time spending researching in Alaska, what have you come across? Have you physically seen a Bigfoot? I mean, have you come across one, or just pretty much the evidence? Maybe structures, tree breaks, tracks. Of course, you've got tracks. Have you ever seen one out there in Alaska that you think may or may not have been one?
Not yet.
Okay.
And it's all about, as you guys know, it's all about timing.
Yes.
It's all about timing. And I've noticed that that because, especially in the summertime here, because it's light all the time, or not, I guess in certain parts of the state, it's light for 24 hours in the summer. Other parts, it kind of gets dusk, but you can
Right.
still see. But I haven't seen one yet. But hoping coming up here this summer might be a different story. I'm going to get out to some new areas.
And that's a great answer too, because not everyone sees one the first time out. 20 years, 30 years experiences, and researchers have not seen one, but you certainly felt their presence, and you know that you're in a hot area. It's just that, hey, they're hiding from you.
Yes, and the Sasquatch here have a reputation of being more on the aggressive side because of their minimal interaction with human population. And there are some places that I've been told by others, hey, you don't want to go there because they're too aggressive. Up near Fairbanks was one of those areas. But yeah, definitely don't want to encounter one of them.
I would think that it's harder to find. Well, I guess I shouldn't even say this, but Alaska being so vast, so dense, the most experienced of trackers and hikers have gotten lost. Certainly a novice hiker to the area. Certainly, I wouldn't recommend going without a professional tracker with you or backpacker. And I think they probably would be a little more ornery. I mean, the climate itself, is subjective to somebody being a little more aggressive than maybe in the rainforests of the Pacific Northwest. It's nice, it's lush, it's green, it's always raining. It's not bad versus the intense terrain of Alaska, not to mention the cold weather.
Yes, the environmental factors up here, and again, I think some people in the lower 48 just don't realize or comprehend just how big this state is.
Yeah.
I mean, like I mentioned before, even here in Anchorage, you can go 5 minutes outside of Anchorage and literally go 1,000 miles without running into another human being.
Yeah.
And our various mountain ranges and everything from tundra to rainforest to mountains. If you wanted to hide someplace, or if any creature wanted to hide, this would be the place to do it.
So what the? Because I know you get your fair share of reports like Thunderbirds up there too.
I have heard that through various documentaries that I've seen, but I have not yet spoken to anybody who's come across one. But I have heard that.
So, okay, he'll be back. So, what do you think? I'm going to ask you this. Aside from the bear, what have you been more? Have you had anything like, I guess, nasty happen to you out there? I mean, as far as dealing with these cryptids or Bigfoot or anything?
Thankfully, no. Thankfully, no. Again, the experiences that I've had up here have been non-aggressive nature.
Right.
Again, hearing the tree knocks that
Right.
happened when I was taking that course. But I think the most scared I've been was that time in Cordova with the silence and that
Right.
feeling of being watched, because the uncertainty of what's going to happen in that next moment is something that grips you, and that's probably the moment in all my research up here where I was the most concerned. And until and when I've talked to people about that time, they sometimes really don't understand, but I guess it's one of those things, until you've experienced it, until
Right.
you've lived it, an experience will always outweigh somebody's opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because y'all got, and it's like you were saying earlier, they're known for, as far as Bigfoot goes, they're known for being, a little ornery up there, a little more ornery than most places. But it's the same thing with, the skunk apes down in Florida. Well, you can't blame them. I mean, look at the, I'd be ornery too if I lived out in the swamps like that. But I just wonder if they have to be more territorial because of the brown bear situation up there where you're at. Because I think a big brown bear could give them a run for their money.
Yeah, I've heard people up here talk about bear versus Bigfoot in a confrontation and who would come out on top. The general consensus of people I've spoken to, in fact, I had this conversation a couple of times up in a village called Kotzebue. I used to live in a village called Kotzebue, which is about 30 miles north of the Arctic Circle. And even up there, the trappers and the people have had Sasquatch experiences. And I had this conversation with several people when I lived there in the village. And the consensus was that in a bear versus Bigfoot confrontation, Bigfoot would come out on top. The big one guy told me the Bigfoot would be scratched up a bit, but the Bigfoot would come out on top. That would seem to be the consensus.
Yeah. See, with me, I think it's an any given Sunday type situation.
Oh, right.
I really do, because we've had the same conversation about Dogman versus Bigfoot. I think it's an any given Sunday, because one, I mean, I'm not too sure if either one would come out on top. Maybe immediately one of them would win, but being banged up, and I don't think either one was going to come out, unscathed. And then you're dealing with the infections and all that kind of stuff, and because you get hurt out there, it's hard to feed and all that kind of stuff. Maybe the Bigfoot has an edge because of the social aspect of it, because I think they're more family oriented. Maybe they'll take care of one that's injured more than like a bear. Bears is going to wander off and eventually die. But I think if a Bigfoot gets hurt, there's pretty good chance, I think, that the other ones would nurse him back to health if they could. But I don't know if either one of them would come out really on top of the situation, because you talk about a big brown bear, that's a lot of claws and teeth, and that's a lot of beef. I mean, behind it. I mean, it's. I don't think I'd want to see it. I don't think I'd want. I mean, I've seen brown bears go at each other. I can just imagine what, if one was fighting for its life against a Bigfoot. That would be a brutal fight to watch.
One gentleman in Kotzebue told me there are two things that will shake the ground: bears and Bigfoot.
Yep. So what are y'all seeing as far as size of tracks up there? Y'all seeing many, because I know y'all get the big ones up there. Are y'all seeing any evidence of younger ones running around?
I have not spoken to anybody who has seen the younger tracks myself, but I obviously, heard accounts in documentaries and interviews and stuff like that, and those seem to be more isolated to the southeastern part of the state, where it's mostly rainforest.
Gotcha. So, what do you think? Do you think I mean, I know this is speculation because you haven't seen any evidence of it, but as far as getting reports and all that kind of stuff, what do you think the population is starting to grow up there? Or
not only do I think the population is starting to increase, but I think it's increasing nationally. It seems like reports and encounters are becoming more frequent. And talking to researchers in the lower 48, and especially, I'm in contact with my partners every week, and the activity that we're seeing on our game cams and hidden game cams in our research area, ground zero down there, seems to, over the last few years, be on the uptick. So my opinion is that they're not only on the increase up here in Alaska, but they're on the increase down there in the lower 48 as well. In fact, when we were doing a show with L.A. Marzulli back a couple months ago, he mentioned that the encounters are obviously on the increase.
We kind of brushed over it, but it's something we really don't take into account. We talk, everybody likes to talk about the bears versus the Bigfoot and everything, but and we mentioned it earlier, there's something up there that's just, if not more territorial and grumpy as a damn brown bear, and that's a moose. You're looking at what, a 2,000-pound animal, a big old bull?
Yeah, the moose can be just as dangerous as the bears, or in some cases even more. And here in Anchorage, I'll bring it into town here for a second. The moose just walk down the street here like they own the joint. Even at our airport, a moose came into the parking garage and gave birth on level 2 of the parking garage. And sometimes when I go out to my vehicle to leave somewhere, I have to look around, to make sure that there are no moose around. And again, they just come out of nowhere, but you can see them literally walking down the street. And you're right, they're so massive. And back a number of years ago, even at the university here in Anchorage, there was a mama moose and a calf that were in front of the physical education department doors, and some idiot decided he didn't want to go to any other door, and when he attempted to walk between them, the mother attacked him and actually stomped him, which is what they do. And that gentleman was actually killed. It happened a long time ago, but you mention it to anybody in Anchorage and they're familiar with the story.
Well, I mean, and we've had, You know, and the white-tailed deer down here are puppies compared to the wildlife y'all got up there. We've had reports of a few reports of, you know, a good-sized buck killing people on the side of the road, picking up cans.
Hmm.
You know, they'll shred you to pieces. Those little hoes are, you know, they sharp, man. They'll cut you to ribbons. But I can just imagine. I mean, a moose's hoof is got to be that big. You know.
Unfortunately, we get a lot of vehicle moose collisions here, and they can be deadly to the driver of the vehicle because
Yeah.
when they hit them, they hit the legs break, and the moose falls in on the windshield, and that's a couple thousand pounds coming through the windshield. So
Right.
we have had driver fatalities with moose collisions up here, unfortunately, and that's just one of those threats that you always have to be aware of when driving up here.
You know, when you talk about, especially where well, it could be anywhere, but it's talking about Alaska today. And in your reports, how many reports do you think you've gotten or people you've spoken with? Because moose are abundant, the black bears or black and brown bears are abundant. And especially, I guess this could be for maybe more of a novice, perhaps, or it could be an experienced person in the field. But how many reports is it tough to extrapolate whether a sighting or an experience was a moose or a bear versus somebody saying, "Hey, man, I saw Bigfoot"? Or maybe you get a lot more of that. Do you think is that tough to decipher, Daniel?
I'll refer back up to my years living in the village in Kotzebue,
Mm-hmm.
and a guy up there that I knew who was a trapper, and he would leave the village and go upriver to check his trap lines. And he told me once that depending on the vegetation that's around, it's and the color of the hair, with brown and black, and you might mistake a bear or a moose in the brush for a Bigfoot based on movement and based on the color of the hair.
Right.
So I'm sure that misidentifications happen more often than not.
Yeah. Both ways. I think.
You know that we've all heard about UFOs, sightings in Alaska, orbs in Alaska. And then, of course, and this is not just in Alaska. Typically, you get a lot. Hey, I saw a UFO. I saw an orb. Then all of a sudden, boom, there's a Bigfoot. Do you get a lot of that in Alaska? Because I know Alaska, outside of the cryptids, Alaska's well known for a lot of UFO sightings and such, orbs and such. Do you think there's a correlation? Have you found that when there's a sighting of UFO that's been reported, then all of a sudden somebody has a report of a Bigfoot nearby right around the same time of the UFO sighting?
I have not heard that personally. Again, referencing documentaries and such that I've watched and interviews I've heard, but I've not been told that personally. What I have been told personally is that UFO, UAP activity in the state seems to be on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the perception. And also, we are actually experiencing some of the same drone issues that have been experienced in the lower 48. In fact, a photographer that I know is a professional photographer sent me a video recently of one that was over his neighborhood in Anchorage. And it was dead silent, but he sent me the video. And I have two drones, and it was at nighttime. I have two drones myself, two DJI drones, and I can't even, lift off due to the restricted airspace and the locks. So for any drones to be over neighborhoods in Anchorage at nighttime, unless the people have figured out how to bypass the security protocols, is highly unusual. But people that I work with in town here have told me, and I work in the aviation field, so I've heard people out at the airport saying, yeah, pilots are reporting seeing more lights in the sky. So I don't know if it seems to be this phenomenon that seems to be on the increase nationwide, and Alaska is part of that.
So this whole drone phenomenon, if you want to call it that, what's your take on it?
I kind of feel like I think President-elect Trump said it best when he said the government knows exactly what's going on here, and they're not saying anything.
I'm with you.
Go figure that. You said that probably as best as anybody can, really.
Yep. So what about UFOs up there? I know you've got your share of encounters that are reports up there, and the Alaskan, you know what? Let's table the UFOs thing. The Alaskan Triangle. I always find that fascinating because it's now I know there's planes that go down. I get that. But there's other stuff that goes on out there, that we hear about. How as far as the locals go, what's the temperature of the room as far as that kind of stuff goes? I mean, are they convinced that something hinky is going on in that certain area, or is it more widespread than we from the outside are being told?
So we have a military base here in Anchorage, Joint Base Elmendorf, and when on occasion you will see the Raptor fighters taking off and zipping out of here real fast. And somebody at the airport once told me, well, they're either heading out to intercept the Russians who like to come and test our border up here, or they're going out to pursue the latest UAP. And that's what somebody told me at the airport once. And so every time I see the Raptors taking off and zipping towards the west, I wonder, are they headed out to intercept the Russians, or are they headed out to intercept something else? And the UAP phenomenon, UFO phenomenon has been talked about a lot up here. I think probably the most famous one is back a number of years with, you listen to the cockpit air traffic control transmissions between a Japan Airlines crew and the air traffic control tower here in Anchorage, where they're seeing UAPs and reporting it. And of course, Alaska also has talk of pyramids that are out there in the wilderness. And so there has been, and just based on what I've heard talking to people, other people might say otherwise. Based on what I have heard, the UAP phenomenon, and also there's more talk about those pyramids as of late as well, and what might be going on with those has been on the increase.
There's a alleged pyramid off the coastline, is there not, that I was reading about?
There may be. I haven't heard about that one. The ones that I've heard about have been up more near Denali.
Okay. It's funny you mentioned Denali. I never knew that the Chevy Denali was they coined that from Alaska. I never knew that until like last year. And just some stupid tidbit there. I got to ask you this now. Again, you've never physically seen a Bigfoot, right? That you understand. So let me ask you, and I know that you obviously want to see one, and you certainly one day, Daniel, you're going to come across one. I just feel it. But here's the thing. Texas seen Dogman and a Bigfoot. I certainly saw a Bigfoot, and I couldn't process it. Much like Tex probably when he was younger with the Dogman. When I saw mine, Daniel, I couldn't process I'm looking at something that shouldn't exist, right? Hell, I didn't even know what I was looking at until I did some investigation down the road. One day, when you come across something that's 8, 9 foot tall, 4 feet wide, 800 pounds, have you thought about how you're going to process it or what your state of mind is going to be? I know you believe in Bigfoot and all these cryptids. I know that you're a researcher, and that's the ultimate end game for most of us to do this. But I have to ask you, ever get the thought about, boy, I wonder what's going to happen when I'm confronted with this? Have you even give thoughts on that and how you're going to react? Because I'm going to tell you something. It's quite an incredible experience.
Let me say something before I answer that. Let me say something about your experience. You know, when we had you on the podcast recently, and I got to hear your story.
Yeah.
You know, that was amazing. That was fascinating. And then you have artist depictions of what you saw.
Yes.
You know, people have asked me this question: how would you respond? You know, when you finally see one. And I've only been lucky enough to see one in a picture I've taken. You know, it was there, but when that time comes, which I hope it does, it all depends on the aggression level. I've thought to myself, you know, what would I do? How would I respond? How would I react? You know, am I going to be like I call it the Bigfoot militia? Like the Bigfoot militia are the researchers that say they want to see one, and they're going to do this. And as soon as they see one, they immediately run, you know,
Yeah.
and like take that Revolutionary War.
You can't run. Yeah, you've been doing this your whole life. You're not going to run when you see one.
I'm like, you know, take that, you know, the militia in the Revolutionary War was famous for as soon as they saw the redcoats, they would just split, you know. So I call it the Bigfoot militia. So am I going to be a Bigfoot militia and just run, or am I going to? And so what I've decided to do, I'm like, well, you know, if it's not showing aggression, I'm going to live that moment. You know, if I got that camera, it's coming out. If regardless of if it interferes with my electronics or not, I'm going to try to live that moment and see as much as I can see and record as much as I can record until it threatens me to the point where I have no choice but to retreat. But
Right.
that's the moment that I've been waiting for. And unless they're showing aggression, I'm going to live that moment and stick it out.
You know, all I can say is this is kind of an out of body experience for me, even though I was within myself. It's hard to explain. Fabulous, and at the same time, you made a great point though. When I had my encounter, Daniel, I wasn't one of the friendly forest giant folk, because my first encounter was terrible. It really was. And then what happened afterwards, right? And I'm not getting into that. Most people know all that. A lot of people might have that friendly encounter. And I got to think, no matter whether you have an aggressive encounter or a friendly Bigfoot crossing the road, stops, looks at you for a brief second and disappears, I'm still not in the bandwagon of something I can trust. I was talking to some people, Rob, you always say negative things about Bigfoot. Well, no, I always don't. I always say about mine, there's way more experiences that are neutral. But then I asked that person this: would you leave your kids playing alone in your backyard with a Bigfoot in your area? And I think the answer to that would be no. I mean, I'm suggesting, right?
Well,
And, you know, when that moment finally does come, which I hope it does, and who knows, maybe I'll be like, you know, maybe I need to reevaluate this again and then head to the hills. But
Right.
but my hope is that I'm gonna, because this is the as researchers, this is the focal point, you know, is to
Right.
have that encounter and have it become even more real and vivid to us than it was before. So my plan is to live that moment and stick it out unless there's aggression happening.
Yeah. Tex, you were going to make a comment on that?
yeah, I don't remember what it was.
I guess.
Oh,
Tex.
you know, you was talking about people wanting to see this stuff, and when they do, they hightail it. and I don't blame them. Okay, I really don't. But it's like watching these paranormal shows. They go in and they investigate all this stuff, and the first time something happens, they split, they run,
Right.
you know. And it's the same thing with most of these Bigfoot shows. They get a twig snap or a grunt or whatever, and they hightail it.
Mm.
What? Why? Or what? If you're not prepared to do this and prepared, why are you leaving when you find what you're looking for? You know, I get it. It's more terrifying than you thought it was going to be. I don't know. It just kind of goes all over me because I've never been chased out. I've never been, any of that stuff. And I've been bluff charged. I've had them possibly come, cheek to cheek with me beside my tent. I've had them run through the camp. I've seen them, just all kinds of different stuff. But I never thought my life was in danger. I mean, did I get startled on occasion? Yeah. I felt the need to draw my weapon one time. But that was it. And that's because I thought it was coming into camp with us, and I didn't know what it was. And because one, you don't know if it's a damn pig, and that's your first thought, And of course, out there where I go, we've had reported tiger sightings also. So there's that to deal with. Then you've got the bears to deal with. So you really don't know, but as far as seeing these things and encountering these things that I'm pretty convinced that that's what it was at the time. I've never had that, oh my God, I need to run. One, running in the woods is not a good idea. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're going to either lose your way or get yourself hurt or become prey automatically.
Yeah.
Those are your three choices, I don't know. My hat's off to research yourself and researchers like you, Will Lunsford and Steve, because y'all go in these areas that these creatures are waspy. They don't want you there, but you don't let them run you off either. You go in there, you're prepared for what you're going to possibly run into, and you're more excited, and I can tell in your voice when you talk about it, and I hope it does happen and all this kind of stuff, you're more excited about it than anything else.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'll let it bite you in the ass either. And I got to tell you, anytime you want to come down to my neck of the woods and go out in my research area, you're more than welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because text says, I tell you what, a lot of times text comes up with something over there, whether it's cryptid or paranormal. And I got to ask, I know you were going to say something, Daniel, but before I forget, you think, how do you view, I always ask people this, you think that Bigfoot is paranormal? You think it's human-like, flesh and blood, combination? What's your thoughts from your research and talking with others in the field?
Yeah, well, my question is, what are the locals saying up there too?
Yeah, or the First Nations.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
Yeah.
That was a lot of questions in the last.
Yeah, we're gonna just throw it all at you one time there.
Smorgasbord.
No problem. No problem. As far as what people have told me up here, they again, Alaska natives up here, a lot of them see the topic of Sasquatch as a very serious topic and very sacred, and especially in the southeastern part of the state. And they feel like, or I shouldn't say they, individuals that I've spoken to feel that Sasquatch is a more on the paranormal side, given that sacredness. And but it's I've heard it referred to as a watcher of the woods, a watcher of the mountains. And then other people that I've spoken to still fall into that category of North American primate. That it's a highly intelligent, elusive, North American primate of some type. And one of the things I like about your guys' show is that it's a safe platform, for people that have different theories on what this creature might be. As I've learned doing the podcast, there's some people in that Bigfoot community that get real offended real quickly if you state a theory that they don't agree with.
Yes.
And
All too
like I
well.
said, one of the many things I love about your guys' show is it's a safe platform for people to be able to openly talk about their experiences and their feelings and thoughts, theories, and opinions on what this creature might be. For me, I've always kind of been on the line of North American primate and Nephilim connection. I've kind of been on that line, so, I've, see strong cases made for various theories, and when someone's had an experience, you can't argue with someone's experience.
Right.
Like we said, an experience will always outweigh a theory or an opinion. But for me, I think these like, for me, it's the North American primate kind of possible Nephilim connection. It's obvious to me that people have reported a lot of possible supernatural abilities that these creatures may possess, and things like mind speak and infrasound and etc. and other supernatural abilities. So when I think about that, I kind of my radar needle kind of goes more over towards a possible Nephilim connection. But then again, we have partners that are very strong in the North American primate. So, but as far as I go, I'm kind of on that line between North American primate and Nephilim connection, but sometimes I'm leaning more towards the possible Nephilim connection.
I'm somewhere in between with my answer. And that's all I can speculate on that. Now, you must have had Marzulli on your show, because I know he's an influencer and he believes a lot about Sasquatch being part of the Nephilim.
Yes, we did have L.A. Marzulli on, and this weekend we're actually interviewing another gentleman named Derek Gilbert. He's a host from the show A View from the Bunker. He's on Daystar Network a lot, and I think he was on Coast to Coast AM recently. But we're going to be talking to him about the possible Nephilim connection as well.
But that's always interesting. There's so many different theories, and I appreciate, and I know Tex does too, I appreciate you recognizing that we have a safe space to come to despite what your theory is. Whether we agree or not, it don't matter, because nobody's right, nobody's wrong, because everybody's experience is different. We've never walked in people's shoes, what they've seen, what they haven't seen. And that's why your story, to me, not you personally, but anybody gives us a story, I take it seriously. Is it what you really seen? Well, we don't really know because we weren't there, but I'm going to believe the person that tells me what they tell me. And we've had some doozies, and you just roll with it. And it's up to the individual person to listen, and do their own little self-check on what they believe the person's coming across as. Because I know for a fact that people are experiencing these things throughout their life, whether they even know it or not. A lot of people see these things a lot of these hunters walk by them every day, I'll bet you. They don't even know what they're looking at.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when we had L.A. Marzulli on, we actually got a little bit of heat for that, because some people were just downright offended. I'm never going to watch your show again, because they came from the camp of these are forest people. They're a tribe, and that's fine if somebody wants to believe that. But in all the various theories out there, you at least have to take it under consideration. And again, my hat's off to you guys for being a safe platform for people to share their experiences and their theories without harsh judgment. Because like I said, when we had Marzulli on, and I'm sure the same thing is probably going to happen with Derek Gilbert, we're going to get a little bit of heat from people who just get angry that someone's theory is different than theirs.
Right.
But it's all about taking the heat when you do a podcast, and I embrace it whether I agree or disagree, because part of this is kind of entertainment, right? And just to people are entitled to their own opinions, negative or positive. That never upsets me. because people they have their different hypotheses, and again, they have their different research and their different experiences. So, but I must say, Tex, you have anything in closing? We're getting ready to knock this out of the park here in a couple minutes.
No, I just want to, hey, Ben, you keep doing what you're doing, man. I think you're doing awesome stuff up there, and even down here, and like I said, anytime you're in my neck of the woods, you just, reach out, man. We'll hook up.
I definitely will take you up on that. Already got plans to head down to Arkansas to meet up with my mentors and partners down there. William Lunsford, Stephen Hill, two guys that you guys know very well, who I call them field generals in cryptid research.
Well, in fact, if your schedule, I don't know if you've seen it, we're doing a conference, our whole group. We got tons of featured guests, tons of speakers, and September 19th and 20th in Missouri, we're coming down. And William Lunsford will be
he's one of the speakers. He's
one of the headlining speakers for us. So he'll be there, and check it out. Check it out if you're available. That'd be great. But you live in Alaska, for gosh sakes, and you're like, it seems like you're like a million miles away, right? It's hard to even believe that Alaska and Hawaii, by the way, are part of the United States, because it's almost, when I think Alaska, I think Russia, because Alaska borders Russia, as we all know.
Yeah. I am going to try to make that conference anytime I get an opportunity to see research where I'm still a student. I'm just an amateur, and anytime I learn from, your guys' show and the guests that you have and who you talk to. And anytime I get the opportunity to go to a conference or take people up on an invitation to go out, like Tex, I'm definitely going to take you up on that. Yeah, I'm going to try to make it. Starting on the 25th, I'll be down in Michigan to do some stuff down there. I got my Lions hat. I got my Delta ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to try to do some things in Lapeer County and Wayne County and Monroe County. And Rob, if you've got some free time, we need to get together while I'm there, because I'll be, just like 5 miles away from you. So.
Oh yeah, I'll give you a call. We'll check that out for sure. I'll give you the dates. Let me know that it's all confirmed, obviously. So yeah, shoot me the dates.
Daniel, when we wrap things up, don't run off, and we'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get in touch, Daniel, with that for sure. I want to thank Obese Tuna, and I also want to thank Diane. I think it was. Yes, Diane, for your awesome super chats here today. That's awesome. I appreciate all of you. Before you leave, everybody, hit the like button on the way out. If you're new, subscribe to Bigfoot Michiganrob, Texas Front Porch. Daniel Becker, which is Cryptid Wilderness Research. The link is, of course, pinned in this chat. It's also on the About page. Go check out Daniel. I've been on the show. Duke's been on it. Marzuli's been on it. He's on some really good and interesting.
Hopefully soon.
Tex probably. I'm sure Tex is probably going to talk to you about that after the show. I know Tex. Yeah, he'll want to get on that. And you have a nice podcast. You got you get a lot of views on your shows for the majority of them, which is awesome. So that's great. You put out good content. Thanks to everybody for coming in. This is awesome. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to all of our shows across the board. We appreciate you. And Duke Sullivan's doing the Glag Saga. He's been doing this for the last couple of weeks, Duke, I guess. So go check out that story, Kevin Lang and that saga, because it is very informative, entertaining, and it's kind of the story about friendship. I will just say it and leave it at that. You got to check it out. World Bigfoot Central. With that being said, as you know what I need to do, Tex, I got to look for our little breakaway. Of course, Daniel, please stay back. Don't leave the show just yet if you got a couple minutes. And I got so much to scroll through, Tex. So much to scroll through. Here we go. Thanks, everybody.
This is the future. This is the future. Evolution.